Good afternoon everybody, welcome to another Tillers Turf Talk. I hope everybody's keeping okay. So, been a lovely week this week, fantastic, lots of sunshine, lots of reasons to be outdoors, sort of enjoying your gardens, your golf courses or other green spaces and turfed areas. So what are we going to look at this week? Well, this week everybody's still laying turf, so as we move into these warmer, more challenging conditions, I want to today give you sort of 5 golden rules, 5 things to consider when laying turf during these warmer sort of summer months. So we're going to go and have a look at a few areas that we need to sort of discuss, and hopefully we give some tips to make sure that your lawn goes down the best it possibly can. Let's go out and see what's going on. Golden rule number 1 of laying turf in the summer, in fact laying at any time of the year, is the ground preparation itself. So always make sure the area is ready and prepared and your level's good before you organise delivery of your turf. By all means order it, get it on the system, but don't have it delivered until you're absolutely 100% ready. So if you're struggling with your final finish on your lawn, then you may consider the use of topsoil. So we've got some beautiful friable topsoil here, make a perfect level, perfect finish. If you've got any dips or hollows you need to fill out, great product to use for that. So get your finish right before you order. So golden rule number 2 of laying turf in the summer months, fairly obvious one, water. So very important when you're laying new turf, particularly in these hotter months. It will be drying out on the pallet, it will be drying out if you're laying it. So the irrigation, very important. You can use a multitude of different types of sprinklers, impact sprinklers, gear driven sprinklers, but make sure you give it all the water it needs. So also a great way to cool down whilst you're laying it. On from golden rule number 2, which was obviously water source, and make sure that's available. We go straight into golden rule number 3, and that is be ready for the turf, be prepared for when it arrives. So we have a look at a few little tools that you might find useful, things to consider that you may well overlook. So the other thing I would say, other than the tools, is obviously resource. So if you have got quite a large garden to turf, then it's worth calling on a few friends and family. Usually a bottle of beer or a barbecue at the end of the day is enough to lure them in. So the more help and the quicker you get this turf down this hotter weather, the better. So a few tools you might consider. Number 1, a wheelbarrow. It's a very good chance, particularly in a garden, that the turf will be dropped on your front driveway. So we need a good efficient means of getting it round to the back garden to lay. No better way than a wheelbarrow. 4 or 5 rolls, away we go. We've got to bear in mind in the summer that the turf's irrigated, so it can be quite heavy. So consider that when you're thinking about the movement of your turf. Number 2, when it comes to cutting the turf to shape and size, I tend to use a good old carving knife. You can use things like obviously an edging iron or a half moon as we used to call them, but something simple as an old kitchen knife, absolutely perfect. Then some other handy tools we can use. If you're putting straight edges on your lawn, then you might want to consider putting your first line in and stringing it out, just so you can form the lawn into the perfect shape. Last thing we want to do is have to double handle the turf. So if we get the shape of it in first, then that's going to negate that happening. So string, dead simple. If it's a curvy lawn, it's got lots of shape to it, you might consider using something like a road paint. Just put a few little dashes in and get the shape of the garden in first. I'm going to talk a little bit more in a further video about how we lay turf and how we can turn the corners with turf. But certainly something like this, last thing we want to do is get the turf all down, you look back, you're not happy with the shape, you're not happy with where it goes, we've got to lift it all up, lay it all again. As I've said, we don't want to be doing that in these summer months. We want to get it on the floor, get it watered and grow it in perfectly. The last thing you might consider is very useful for ensuring that the turf connects with the soil really well. That's the use of laying boards. So again, something dead simple. So ideally for this, maybe go to your local builder's merchant, wood merchant. If you just buy a sheet of 8x4 plywood, ask them if they'll kindly cut it down the middle. That'll give you a perfect 600mm width. So exactly the same width as the turf itself. So when you're laying the turf, you can walk on the boards, it helps to press it down, helps to stop you footprinting it all, and again, very useful, keeps things neat, tidy, sharp and fresh. So golden rule number 4 of laying turf in the summer is actually the preservation of the quality of the turf itself. So here at Tillers we harvest everything to order, so delivery is going to be very prompt and shouldn't give you any problems at all. So just want to give you a couple of examples as to why it's so important that this turf's laid straight away, particularly during these hotter summer months. There's got a couple of other examples here of rolls of turf. Now this roll has been rolled up for about 48 hours, Already you can start to see it starting to yellow off a little bit, losing a bit of colour, completely starved of oxygen, starved of sunlight. All these things that keep it fresh, keep it green, have gone. Thankfully we've had a bit of water recently, so the moisture content's okay, just about keeping the plant hydrated. As an absolute contrast, we have a roll here that's been rolled up for 6 or 7 days. As you can see, completely degenerated, not really fit for purpose anymore, but I just hope this just really highlights the importance of getting this turf down, ideally on the day of delivery. If you can't lay it on the day of delivery, then consider laying it out in on a driveway or another area of the garden. Keep it watered until it's ready to lay. Even when it's delivered, if you can sort of store it in the shade, that's a big help too. Keep the sunlight off, keep the heat off, and that'll just help keep the rolls cool. And one final piece of advice on your turf would be, if you are buying turf off the shelf, it's always worth just rolling the first couple of rolls back on top of the pallet, just see what the conditions are like before you commit to buying them. So I hope that helps you in some way, and as I say, example number 1, straight out of the field, best way to go every time. Gold rule number 5 then, and the final one, is really the aftercare now. So keep an eye on it, monitor it, keep lifting the corners, keep checking for moisture. If it's a really big project, it might be worth, say on a golf course, maybe just delegating like an irrigation monitor, so somebody to oversee the whole growing in process. That way they know what's been watered when, for how long, and therefore bits don't get missed. So other things to consider, things like nutrition, keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on the growth, make sure it doesn't get too long before you get your first cut on it. So just to finish off, one really handy tip is just to make sure that you look after yourselves while you're doing it. Remember, these hot summer months can be really quite draining out in the garden. They can become sun traps, they can become quite warm. So remember to wear some sunscreen, make sure you've got plenty of water to hand, get the lawn down, enjoy it, have a great summer on it, and just have a great time. So just to finish off everyone, thanks very much for watching the video. Thanks for watching all your previous videos, your likes, your comments. Subscribe to Tiller's Turf TV. Check out our website, details below. Remember to like, retweet and share it with your friends. So look forward to making many more in the future. Have a great weekend and we'll catch up next week.